everybody. Good evening who's watching this live session with us. I'm Mukta Manohar. So I'm part of Snehadhara Foundation. Today we have with us Gitanjali Sarangan, who's the Executive Director, founder of Snehadhara Foundation. Snehadhara Foundation has been there for 8 long years now. And I'm really honored to introduce Gitanjali today. She's done great work. I have known her just for like past few weeks now, but a lot of work. So Gitanjali, over to you. Tell us about yourself and tell us about Snehadhara Foundation for all the viewers today.
Thank you, Mukta, and I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
All right. So, thank you for that introduction, and for all of you who are watching us today. It has been 8 years now since Snehadhara has been set up. When we set up in 2012, the whole idea of setting up an organization stemmed from the idea that learning is a diverse process. We can learn through the arts. So this has been the only organization which has used arts-based intervention as a primary methodology of working with children and adults with special needs. It's been 8 years, seems like 8 lifetimes. But I must say this, at the end of 8 years, the one lesson that we carry with us, or which I carry with me, is clearly this whole thing of normalcy is overrated. Learning is a learner-led process. And can we just provide spaces for children, adults, and all stakeholders in this place to learn together? Snehadhara has 3 verticals. One is the direct care vertical, where we work with children and adults. It is a semi-residential setup, but owing to the COVID situation, of course, now our programs are running online. But we've made a huge beginning by setting up our own beautiful campus at Nelamangala. The direct care space has worked with over 200, 250 children with special needs in a format which has been a Monday to Friday format, various programs. Each program stemmed and birthed from the need of a child. The second vertical is Impart, and Impart, which is an acronym for interventions, methodologies, and practices using the arts, is our vertical which looks at trainings, which looks at working with various special populations, schools, inclusive schools, mainstream schools, government schools, corporates, rehab centers. So it's fair to say that that's our training vertical. And the third vertical is Pragyadhara. Pragyadhara is one of the pioneers of bringing the arts practices for inclusion certificate course, which is going to be one of its kind starting next year. Pragyadhara has looked at offering the arts-based therapy course for 3 years, and rightfully the API, which is Arts Practices for Inclusion, stemmed from the learnings of that journey. It's also a vertical where we have a program called Study of the Mind, which invites teachers, masters to come and share their learning so that the process of learning together stays on with all of us. So that's Snehadhara in a nutshell. Snehadhara was set up after the first child, Sneha, that I worked with. So the organization gets its name from this child, who's actually been the source of giving life, meaning, purpose to so many lives, including all the adults involved in it.
Wow. I think that's like so much of work that you've done, and it's awesome. I read on your website that you've touched, multiple lives, and I'm sure all these programs have touched many people. But for our viewers who are watching today, would you want to talk about what exactly is art-based therapy and how do you use that, for special needs children?
Okay. I have been trained in arts-based therapy from WCCLF Pune. And arts-based therapy is the therapeutic use of art forms, multi-art forms, music, movement, dance, visual art, storytelling, to achieve therapeutic goals in children and adults. So in very simplistic terms, it is how can the arts provide a means of actually meeting learning and therapeutic outcomes. So possibly what a physiotherapist or an occupational therapist would look at achieving for a child whose focus is on motor domain goals, we would achieve it using play and dance, movement and dance. What a speech therapy would try achieving in a child, having arts as a tool helps us achieve it through voice, music, and songs. So basically, arts becomes that language with which we are looking at achieving goals. But I think what has been the most fulfilling part of this journey, and I keep saying this, is I don't know who's benefiting from this. And I say we're in this for very selfish reasons. I don't know how much we're helping another here, but it's helping that process of making those connections within for us. So I think that is arts-based therapy, and that's what we have been using. Having put this to test, having worked with various programs that have STEM, not just using ABT, but various other methodologies of working with children, be it using cooking, be it using gardening, and I think looking at some programs where our children have been a part of regular mainstream schools and we're facilitating inclusion circles together has given birth to arts practices for inclusion, which for build an inclusive and empathetic world. So that's the way forward for all of us in Snehadara, and we're looking forward to that and bringing that both to India and outside the country. This was launched in Argentina last year, and we're hoping that that's going to be a journey where we have lot many more people, an army of people who are set out to build an empathetic and compassionate society.
Wow, that is so awesome, truly. And this is the same thing that you won the Millennium Award as well,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
You want to talk about a bit about the award?
Yeah, thank you for saying
that's a very pricey thing, and it's been like, awesome, and you must talk about that.
Yes, so we won the Millennium Alliance grant 3 years ago in their round 4 for bringing arts-based therapy to places in the country. And having been an awardee of the award once, and I think that was the first time the disability sector was awarded. This year, we won the global award to take the arts practices for inclusion to Nepal. So we will be taking this and looking at seeding this and best practice of this in Nepal over the next 3 years. And I'm hoping that's just a small beginning for many more that's going to be there. And yes, it's prestigious in the sense it's nice to know that people are acknowledging efforts in the disability sector, are supporting ideas of inclusion, because one finds it very difficult to understand what we do, especially with the arts. And if you say, I'm here to build a happy, compassionate society, the question is, yeah, that's all fine, but what do you do? So I think that's been, yes, and that's been a recent feather in our caps. Thank you.
Yes, it must reach the every sector, and wish you all the best on that. And what you've been doing is really wonderful. And but what I also see are these unique names. I was super flawed on all those names that you have for your classes. Viewers, you must know, the classes of Snehadara are named, on flowers. There's a class called Jaji, Mallige in Kannada. These are flowers. Jasmine, it's like beautiful. So how did you come up? I'm sure you have a story for every name, but how did you come up? Let's talk about your new course that you've launched, Ecole Illam, which is an online, course for all the special needs people. So tell me about it. Like, how did you come up with that name? And I'm sure there is a story behind that.
Yes, Ecole Illam translates into school. Ecole is school in French, and Illam is home in Tamil. So there's no reason why it was French and Tamil. I think the rhythm, we are a very, all our names have a certain rhythm and a ring to it. So I think Equal Ilm, actually the initial name we thought of was Equal Ilm. And then we felt Ilm is a little difficult for many of us to pronounce. So let's do Equal Ilm. And clearly that came up as a name because Equal Ilm was an idea that got conceptualized when we looked at how families with children with special needs were handling the lockdown. And we felt that the home is going to be the school for
Wow.
all children. And when we talk of all children, very few of us think about children with special needs. So Equal Ilm came in, I would say, is a revolution of sorts to say, while we're talking about schooling for children, can we talk about what can we do for children and families with special needs? Because the home and the school are equal partners. The home and the learning space are equal partners in the journey of the child. So that's how it came in, and we love aesthetics. So I think the Ilnam E written in Tamil and the logo having a rangoli was, it just seemingly sounded so perfect. So it looked like it was ready, and we just had to claim it as this is ours.
Sure, there are such lovely names for the different art forms that you have given. Those are really amazing, like Prakruti Upahara or Tabula Rasa. It is so awesome. These names are. Would you want to just talk about two or three? I like Tabula Rasa, and what's the other one? Prakruti, and oh yeah, Tree Talk. That sounded so awesome. And Bhag Meka Bhag. Oh my God. That was like, it just stuck me. Can you please tell me, like, and I'm sure the viewers would want to know after I told them the names, and what does it mean, and what are those art forms that are, actually mean to people?
Okay, it's very interesting, Mukta, that you picked up this as a question to ask. While it just seemingly is like a ritual in our case, is Namkaran, although we go around talking about selflessness and what is in the name, these names are really important. In fact, the journey of naming goes back to one of our blog series way back in 2013, which was called Atota Lakhamos. Now, this name came in from a child that I worked with, a child with autism,
So
had a
sweet.
very interesting way of throwing words. It would be ta, mu, a, and then he would put it together, and that would be like a word in itself. And we put some of these words together to see how it sounded, and that was the first time we attempted saying, wow, these words put together come up with such a beautiful name. So that was the first. I think the Namkaran started at that time way back in 2013, I think 13, 14. And of course, after that, the choice of these names have been clearly coming in from, as they need to serve as reminders to be able to say that we need to be able to experience the arts in everything. And also that you're working with the arts, and for the longest people would think arts-based therapy or art-based intervention is always about drama and nautanki. So we felt, why not bring the entire nautanki element out? So many of you will see many Bhag Milka Bhag is a very Bollywood touch to it. And like that, I think it was one of our play programs was called Keli Bo Khai Bo. So I think we keep looking at things that are around us, how the groups feel, and then we just come up with names. So I think each one of us should remind us of, like Takadimita is our program we done. So if the
Right.
name itself has the rhythm, then one would aspire that our kids are able to do that. And then motor domain goals seem to be achievable. So it's like, see the goal that you want to reach in the child everywhere. And so begin with the most obvious. That's the name of the program. Yeah.
That is so nice. Now let's come back to the situation that we are in. I know that everybody is restricted, and people, especially parents, are restricted. To ensure that they provide learning spaces. So how have you, I know that you're starting a program called EcoLilum, and how did you come up with it? Did you do some background work on it, and how confident were you to actually put it up there? And how was the parent reactions? What is the idea about entire online learning and sharing the learning spaces with parents? You spoke about Illam, home. So to me, it sounds like homeschooling, extended. I want to understand that.
So I think to answer your question, how did this come up? It was clearly March 22nd, the day the COVID lockdown was announced, was when Snehadhara moved from its JP Nagar campus to Nelamangala. Quite excited to start the program of working with our children with a clear curriculum and what we would like to achieve in its first ever semi-residential setup from 4th of April. But of course, those plans looked different. We were all dealing with something else, which was unknown, which had no precedence. So COVID in itself is something that we hear often saying, we have no precedence of this. And I'm going to say the same about online learning for children with special needs. There's no precedence for this. We feel that children cannot learn online because of the various challenges, from screen time to so many things. But in Snehadhara, I think every program has birthed from our need to stay connected with the children and the families that we work with. So we could not imagine a situation of not being available for our children and their families in this lockdown situation. While everything was unknown, nobody knew the way forward. What we did know is that this is something very unreal for children with special needs to be at home, to be locked down, to make sense of this, and the multiple challenges that come with it. So we did what intuitively we felt is the right thing to do, is to make sure that we meet the child. And I keep saying this, meet the child where the child is. After March 22nd, we had to meet the child in their homes. And the only way to do that, staying safe and socially distanced, was to meet them online. So that began the journey. And for a sector like ours, and many of those who are in the NGO sector will agree that this whole concept of even work from home doesn't exist. So in such a situation, it began from getting everything ready, including the required training, machinery, getting teams to understand Zoom, getting us to even understand these various platforms that are available. And we made sure, I think, the program which should have started on 4th of April actually started for us with our children on 31st of March, because we felt we need to be there with these families. And since then, it's been 40 sessions a week for the last 5 months of testing and converting the entire curriculum online, converting it into a blended format where we are also able to make sure that we are keeping in mind how much the child can sit in front of the screen, and designing this. So that has been EcoLilum. That's been the genesis of it. Now that we've achieved it, and parents have been quite overwhelmed with what the children could achieve, because little did we realize the Illam also opened up a learning space, a shared learning space between the parent and the child. And now, if that has happened so beautifully, the idea was, let's take it to more children. Let's take it to as many children and families as possible. Yes, there is no precedence, but one would know of it only when one sets out there and tries it. So EcoLilum is that call for action, actually saying, let's do this and meet children who do not have facilities available today for them.
That is so wonderful. So, can you just put a light on, how the parents, reactions have been so far, and then we can go for questions what people have. So, just tell us about how the parents feel about sharing learning spaces, with their own children. Were they apprehensive at the beginning, and how are they taking it right now, and how is it right now?
I think it will be honest to say we all had our apprehensions. Like how the parent had, our apprehensions were also that Will there be a device available? Will the children be able to sit with it? Here is a child who has sitting tolerance is the goal. Sitting in front of the screen is not something that's going to be possible. Lot of apprehensions and fears in our minds. Likewise with the parents as well, it was more to be able to say, in the light of all this, while I may want to try this for my child, what is all the machinery that I have to keep ready back? Because you're talking about a situation where we didn't have house help, where we didn't have our spouses working from home. The challenges were plentiful, and at that time, to be able to say for my child with special needs, I'm going to enroll and set aside a time and sit down with the child, because that's the first thing I need to do. I'm sure they all had their apprehensions, but we met each other's apprehensions and didn't dismiss it. I think the call for invitation with Ecolilam and our program with parents was, let's do this together. And together we need both of us to work together in this. And now I think our testimonials on the website, overwhelming responses from parents to say that, wow, this has worked. We are seeing that the children are taking the learning even beyond the screens, and they're seeing it everywhere. I think it is surprised them to what the children are able to meaningfully engage themselves. I mean, we have 5 sessions a day for the children, and the children are bracing themselves up for a routine. Routine is helping manage behaviors. And the most beautiful part, Mukta, is it's allowed the parent and the child to meet each other in a beautiful learning space. So I think that is the most precious, because I say that children always have something to give us, and I think kids have gifted us this. So yeah, that. Yeah.
I'm sure, they can surprise you beyond, and this is such a wonderful experience. And as a parent, even me, sharing the learning space with the child makes a lot of difference, and I'm sure it's wonderful. So we have some questions that are coming up, and people are really excited about this. So we'll take questions right now.
Sure.
So okay, this is first question that is coming up from Vidya. It is, how do you get children to work in groups when they haven't met each other before? Very interesting.
Oh, that's very interesting. I think I say something. The rules that apply to children should not be very different from the rules that apply to an adult. So the idea is to increase the social world of a child, which means that the child is able to interact, the child is able to, achieve their learnings through being with another. So Snehadhara takes a lot of pride in group work, and we've seen the merits of group work. How do we get children who've never been with each other to actually work with each other? You'll be quite surprised, because each child comes into this space as though he is the only learner. So eventually they do get work with each other. And I was myself very surprised, Vidya. In the online format, I would think that there are so many frames. The children may get distracted. Will a child be able to pay attention to the facilitator? There is another child doing something else in another frame. Wouldn't that come in the way of what the child needs to participate? But truly, the kids have really surprised us. And I think my answer would be, put them in a group and see how they actually work together.
Wow, that's really true, and I'm sure. I hope, Vidya, we were able to answer your question. Kajal has a similar question. How are these group sessions or one-on-one? So I'm sure she wants to know, what is the group size? How do we work? Is it one-on-one? So can we talk about that, Gitanjali?
So these sessions began as one-on-one, and we slowly started increasing our stamina on understanding online learning for special needs. as well as the child's stamina by, moving it from one-on-one to group. Now, the one-on-one would never mean it's just the child and one facilitator. It was always the child and more than one facilitator whom the child could see, because we were getting the children ready to working in groups. But typically, these are group sessions. There is a group goal. Each of the children have their own individualized goals as well. The groups are very carefully selected, in the sense each parent is spoken to. We talk to every parent to understand what can we set as a goal for the child to achieve, given how the child has been responding to this. For some children, there's never been an online learning session. So I have seen what group work has done to these children. So group work is group sessions and a group size of 5 per batch maximum is the way we are imagining Eco-Lelam to be. And I think over a period of time, it might be, making it more heterogeneous, bringing two groups together. So we've had sessions where we've had maybe about our house full, and some programs that we do for the kids might have all our children in one frame as well. So over a period of time, yes, the children do adapt to this. But yes, I think what the children are missing today is not therapy or learning. The children are missing a certain sense of community and connection. And the group sessions are intended to bring just that, Kajal.
Okay, that is nice. Thank you, Gitanjali, for that. Let's go to the next question. Prerna has a question. My child is non-verbal. How will they learn? I think this is also a very interesting question because each of the parent would be concerned. There may be children with different disabilities. So how do you handle that? You're talking about group session and not one-on-one. How does that work?
Yes, it's a very good question, Prerna. Now, we do work with children who are nonverbal. When I say nonverbal, again, the expressive language of the child may not be as much, but the receptive language of the child is what we work with. Because communication at the end of the day is not just how you speak, it's how you comprehend, how you listen, how you're able to comply to what is being told. So I think nonverbal children have very beautifully connected to stories that we have told them. There's a lot of work that happens with gestures. There's a lot of vocalizations that we're actually seeing in the children, even if it is going to be through sound. So while the child's expression may be nonverbal, it doesn't mean that the cognitive capacity of the child is challenged or can't be worked with. So, and I think hence arts provides you that beautiful platform to work with children who are nonverbal. Use visual art. There are some children who depict what they feel by creating it as illustrations, by painting, by working with colors. There may be a child who can't use functional language, but picks up every song that is sung with. So I think communication is not often about speech.
Oh, so true. And that's very beautifully answered, Gitanjali. I'm sure every parent will benefit from that. Another question from Niharika, I see. What about screen time? And I think that's a biggest debate that is everywhere today. What do you think about screen time? And I'm sure it affects the children. You spoke about a 40-minute session. So do you think it affects them?
See, it's very interesting we are asking this question of screen time. There was a time where I would tell, I don't want my child to have my phone. I don't want my child. It's monitored, parental guidance of screen time. Now every child needs to have a device. So the narrative of how we are looking at screen time has also changed with children. And I think it applies for all children. The screen time, if unmonitored, has always been a monster. Screen time is not a question we need to ask just now. It's a question many of us were asking even when the pandemic hadn't hit. So for children, I feel a blended program format where while there is things being shown in the screen, but working with your hands, working with artistic skills are something that addresses this whole thing of screen time. So in a 40-minute session, it would be fair to say maybe about 15 to 20 minutes is maximum that the child may require to engage with the screen. In fact, some children are not even engaging with the screen, but doing what they're working with. So I think the ideal thing to be is then the screen just becomes that facilitation space. The screen is not the facilitator. So clearly it's not recorded videos that's going to work. It's going to be saying, let's do this together from the comfort of our homes. You do it in your home, I do it in mine. But the good news is we're doing it together. I think it's as simple as that.
Oh, that is really very interesting. One has to sit in those sessions and experience them. I'm sure a lot of them are very curious. We have the next question from Pallavi. She wants to know about your team. So are they qualified? Is there a particular course they have gone through? I mean, what is the demographics of your team? That's what she wants to understand.
Okay. Again, specifically in this question, I think, has the team been trained on online learning? Yes, when we set out on this journey quite early on, we saw that it is important to increase the digital literacy of not just the team, but also parents and families who are going to, co-journey with us if we go down this path. So very clearly the team has gone through trainings. We offered a training program, 3 batches of it called Digi Akshara, which spoke to us about how do we use various platforms. We use Zoom extensively. This is also hosted on Zoom. While I'm not marketing for Zoom, but I think the layout, the way the children have responded to it, the features that allowed us to work with it. So there has been a very structured training program put, and which has trained about 30 people over the last 3 batches. That has allowed us to also have people working with the organizations. That was like a program which introduced working online with children. So that has happened. The team goes through ongoing trainings. I think for a 40-minute session that we do, the background work is anywhere between 2 to 2.5 hours, and I'm not exaggerating it when I say it. So I think that's all a part of that learning. I think what it's also done, the biggest learning, like when you say demographics and training, I keep saying that have your heart in the right place and wake up to say, today you have a chance to make that difference. Each one in my team are handpicked to make that difference, not because we picked them, because we just decided here are a bunch of crazy people who want to do something different, who want to be there to support families, and in this whole process, I think, discover our purpose. So each one of the team has been very, very valuable in that contribution. Again, it's diversity. We practice inclusion at every level because some of us come from very different working styles, but this has also taught us what it means to agree to disagree and still stay together.
That is so nice. Okay, so we have the next question from Priya. So where will these online classes happen? If I don't know how to use online platforms, how can my child participate then? So I think we kind of covered that with the training, what you spoke about. You want to talk, I think we can take that next question. Priya, if your question is not answered with the previous one, please put it up. I think Gitanjali mentioned that both parents and facilitators are trained how to use the online platforms. I'll take the next question from Vineet Venkatesh. I would like to know about the criteria to join this program. Yes.
The criteria?
I'm sure people have in mind, about the age group and you have Eco-Lilim split into basic, intermediate and advanced. I'm sure there's a lot of questions around that. Probably, we should touch upon that as well.
Okay, so hi Vineet, and that's a good question. So is there a preliminary criteria to join any of our programs? The answer is no. If you're looking at a space of working, a co-creating learning space with your child, if you're looking at inquiry and reflection, if you're looking at working through the arts, then you are anyways qualified. That's the first criteria. This is not just for children, but this is also for the adults who are a part of this journey. Coming to specifics of Eco-Lilam, the course has been divided as basic, intermediate, and advanced. This has got nothing to do with the ability of the child. Basic is like a 10-session module to just introduce the child to this format, to just look at online learning, because there has been no precedence of online learning and children responding to arts-based online learning. This is more to be able to check, is this what I want to enroll for? And so clearly those 10 sessions, there would be one batch every month. We are hoping to have a basic batches every month. The intermediate is a longer program for 3 months, 30 sessions, which is module based with a pre-intervention phase, intervention, and an evaluation phase. The advanced is a 6-month program. Now, the difference in all of this is, I think we would like the parents to make this call based on where they think they are with in terms of exploring and experimenting this with their child. And this program is going to require parents to, do this together with the child, at least in the initial few sessions. So I think it's basically building a stamina, and I would say that it's very stamina based, yeah.
Okay. That's good. I hope Vineet got all the answers, and for others as well. We have time for probably the last 3 questions. So Anisha has, will my child become equipped to go to mainstream schools after this program? Okay, that's interesting.
Okay, to answer your question, I think sending a child to school is educating a child out of creativity, said late Sir Ken Robinson. So I'm not going to be too sure whether the goal is to send a child to a mainstream school or to normalize equality. I'm sure that this program and journey is going to to help us start looking at needs and learning needs of the children with a different perspective. Can I make my child independent? Can the child be empowered? In the absence of the primary caregiver, is the child capable of handling their basic needs? I think that is what the program aspires to do. And I think mainstream for me is as overrated as normalcy is. So the goal is not to send a child back to mainstream school. In fact, the goal is for mainstream schools to wake up and say, every classroom has diverse group of learners. So can we actually start rethinking and reimagining the way we are working with children? So in fact, it's an invitation to say, hi there, mainstream world. Why don't you come here and we can do this together?
Wow, that's like an open invitation, and all the mainstream schools must work on this, and it's a beautiful thought, Geetanjali. Okay, we have another question. Okay, where can we find more information about this program?
On the website, so if you go to the Sneha Foundation website, you will see Eco-Lilam and all details in terms of registration, in terms of programs are very much available there. We are very live on Facebook and Instagram as well. And I can tell you this for sure, that a submission or an inquiry that comes through our website or anything is almost immediately addressed by the team. Because like I said, each call, each parent, each inquiry is expanding the world for the children and the universe for the children. So yes, please go to the website and do stay connected with us. I think we have.
Okay. So we have one last question from Supriya. So she has a general query and quite an interesting one. if the child is not interested to do art, is it okay if a parent do the art in front of him? And will that help the child? Very interesting.
It's a very, very beautiful question. And I think, Supriya, not many have asked us this question because every parent would like to finish the artwork of the child and say, my child did this. But I think the reason I think this question is so special is because, yes, if the child is not interested in doing art, and if you mean art is visual art, then do I force the child? The answer is no. But if I'm sitting with the child and I'm working with the artistic medium, it is an open invitation to the child to say, come and join me at your pace. The child may scribble, the child may not do anything. It's like, when I learned music, or when we have this experience in all our houses where one of the two siblings or three siblings would be in a music class, and the one who's actually paying for the class would learn lesser than the sibling who's running around outside in the hall. It's just like that. I think we're creating those environments of learning. And if the child sees the parent does it, I think it's very, very joyous, because till date we remember the song that our parents have sung to us, the stories that we've heard from our parents. So I think the first step would be to say, allow the art to touch you, and then I think it will change it for you. You might come up with solutions, Priyanka, Supriya, yourself, to be able to work and come up with improvisations to enroll your child. So, and if you're going to be a part of any of our programs, I'm going to invite you to say, yes, please start allowing the arts to touch you if it is not already.
Oh, that is so wonderful. And, I'm sure, Supriya, art is just not with pencils. You heard a lot of names. There are different art forms, and I'm so excited to just look at that, and I'm sure we need to reach more and more people. I think we have overshot our time by 12 minutes, really. So we should end it here. So thanks a lot, Gitanjali. That was really good to know. All the best for Ecolilim and all the other programs that are going to come through. Have a nice evening. Thanks a lot, viewers. Thanks for spending so much time with us. Thank you. Very interesting questions. I'm sure you will have many more to come. Please visit our website, www.snehadarafoundation.org. So please visit and go to the Ecolilim online school page and post your questions, and please like our Snehadara Foundation Facebook page. You're going to get loads of information of what Snehadara does. Gitanjali, any closing notes?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mukta. Thank you for every one of you who have spent the evening, a Friday, precious Friday evening, watching this. And yes, like Mukta said, we await you with open arms to walk a journey that has not been, a path that has not been traversed, because there is so much of deficit that needs to be met. So here's an invitation to every parent, every educator, every child to say, let's create that space. What if our children cannot reach the schools? We bring the schools to them in their homes. So thank you, and do stay connected. All of you stay safe, and looking forward to speaking and meeting many of you in the days to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.